one way to start the live. Alright. What it is, guys. It is your boy, Steve Adams here. And we bring you live again before my first watch-along stream for tomorrow. So, the reason why I'm doing the reading stream this day is because I'm gonna test out my camera aiming. Anyways, this is my mom's room. As I'm looking from the camera, it looks so perfect though. Anyways. Alright, where we left off from this is when Kirito and the other players got stuck in the game, can't log out. We left off at chapter 2. So here's my thing. If I reach to if I finished up chapter 2 before it hits 1 hour, I might get the chance to do chapter 3. So yeah. This is what I'm going to be doing for this stream. So yeah. Alright. Here we go. Alright. Chapter 2. Sword Art Online, Aincrad, Chapter 2. Here we go. Nakya Grahya. The stranded cries were paired with disparate sword swipes. The blade swishing through nothingness. The blue boar charges his attacker. The next instant, nimbly evading his slashes despite this massive bulk. As I watched the beast flat snout through him skyward, the roll across the field, I couldn't help laughing aloud. Ha ha ha, not like that. The important part is your very first motion, Klein. Yow, hairy bastard. Hairy bastard. Anyways, as the boar's attacker, my party member, Klein, rose to his feet, swearing his shot back and pitiful reply in my direction. Easy for you to say, Kirito. He can really move. I'd only met this man just a few hours earlier. His reddish hair flared back by the bandana tied to his forehead. His lean figure clad in simple leather armor. If we'd introduced ourselves with our real names, it would have been hard not to use protected honorifics, but these were character names we'd chosen specifically for this virtual world. He was Klein, I was Kirito. Attaching san to each other here would have just been weird. Nothing that Klein's legs were usually unsteadily steady, and his spill had probably dizzied him. I leaned down to the grass, and my feet scooped up a rock and held it above my shoulder. The system recognized this motion, and as the initiations of a sword skill, and the stone began glowing a faint green. The rest happened nearly automatically. My left hand flashed, and the rock traced a bright arc through air, striking the blue bar between its eyes, and it prepared to change again. The swine uttered a squeal of rage and turned to me. Of course it moves. It's not a training dummy. But as long as you initiate, initiate it and get the sword skill off properly, the system will ensure that it hits the target. Motion, motion. Klein muttered the word like a spell, waving the cutlass in his right hand. The beast, properly known as a frenzied boar, was only a level 1 mob, but with all its missed strikes and painful counterattacks, Klein's HP bar was nearly half gone. Dang. Wow. Dying wasn't a big deal since he simply revived at the nearby starting town. You think so? But we'd have to trek all the way back here to the hunting grounds again. This fight could only last one more round. It tilted my head in hesitation as I deflected the boar's charge with my sword. How do I explain this? Oh, hi.
What are you talking to?
I was reading.
Oh, okay. What are you reading? Oh, that book. Oh, that looks interesting.
It's actually anime.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm
Sorry.
gonna do a quick bath, and I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna read. You both can read. You know what? I want to turn my bed this way, and I'm going to put the 2 nightstands here, so that way you've got a light, a lamp, okay? Right.
I'm actually live streaming though. You can walk by.
It's okay. I don't want to be on the internet.
Yeah, I recorded you last Christmas.
I know. All right.
That's my mom. Anyways, where was I? Dying was a big deal since tilt my head hastily, and I deflected the boar's charge with my sword. How do I explain this? You, how do I explain this? You don't just hold it up, swing it, and cut the enemy like 1, 2, 3. You have to pause just enough in your first motion to feel the skill cow up, then kapow! You blast it into him. Kapow, huh? Klein held his curved sword and mid-level as his handsome features crumbled into a pathetic grimace beneath the tasteless bandana. He took one deep breath in and out, lowered lowered his waist, then left the sword as through the cradle it on his right shoulder. This time the system recognized the required motion and his arcade blade glined out orange. Rah! He roared and in a much smoother motion than before, bound before with his left foot and satisfying shaking sound enough rang out as his blade curved a path the color of fire. Raver, a single-handed signature skill, caught the charging boar squarely on the head, wiping out its remaining HP. The enormous bulk, excuse me, the enormous bulk shattered like glass with a pitiable squeal, and purple experience number float before our eyes. Hell yeah. Klein struck a victory pose, turning to me with a huge smile. His hand held high. I returned the high five and cracked a smile of my own. Congrats on your first kill. Just remember, that boar was basically the wimpiest like little slime in any other game. Are you serious? I was convinced he was a mid-level boss. Not a chance. I returned my sword to the sheath on my back, my smile fading to a wry grin behind the friendly teasing. I understood Klein's euphoria with my extra 2 months of experience and leveling. I'd been single-handedly responsible for all of our battles so far, making this the first time Klein had truly tasted the pleasure for dispatching a foe with his own sword. As if to practice his lesson, Klein repeated the same skill several times, hooting and cackling while I turned to survey our surroundings. The field around us was brilliantly illuminated by sunlight, just beginning to take on a tinge of red. Far to the north, they lie the Sirente of a forest, while a lake sparkled to the south, and the walls of a town could could be faintly glimpsed to the east. To the west was nothing but endless sky and golden clouds. Where we were standing in a field to the west of the town of beginnings, the starting area at the south edge of the very first floor of Aincrad. Countless other players were no doubt fighting monsters of their own in our vicinity, but the scale of this space was so vast that none were within eyeshot. Finally satisfied, Klein returned the cutlass to the scabbard on his waist, and approached, scanning the horizon with me. Man, no matter how many times I see this, I just can't bring myself to believe that it's all inside a game. Just because we're inside it, it doesn't mean the game would have absorbed our souls or whatever. All our brains are doing is bypassing our eyes and ears, taking in the information directly through the navigear. I spoke through pursed lips like a podding child, my shoulders hunched. Yeah, well, you're already used to it. This is my first full dive into the game. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what a time to be alive. You act like it's such a big deal. I laughed it off, but secretly agreed. Nevergear, the name of a hardware that runs sorta online. This VRMMORPG, a virtual reality, massively multiplayer online role-playing game. But that sounds cool. But this machine is fundamentally different from the home TV gaming console of the past. Unlike previous hardware featuring 2 points of man-machine interface on a flat monitor, and a handheld controller, the Navigear has just a single interface, a streamlined piece of headgear that entirely covers the head and face. Countless transmitters embraced within the unite generate a multiplayer electric field that connects directly to the user's brain. Information this is set not to the eyes and ears but the virtual had an auditory centers of the brain itself, and not just visions and hearing, touch, taste, smell. The Navigear is capable of accessing all the senses. Sounds cool. With the headgear on and chin arm lock in place, a simple link start spoken commanded instantly cause all external noises to fade out. A plunges your vision into darkness. Pass through a floating rainbow ring materializing out of the emptiness, and you're in a different world composed entirely of digital data. In the words, this machine released to the public in May of 2022, that was last year, finally successed in creating a perfect virtual reality. The major electronics manufacturer that thank you. Okay. Manufacturer that developed the Navigear coined the term full dive to describe the act of connecting to the VR world. It was an all-encompassing insulation from reality more than worthy of the term. After all, the machine didn't just provide virtual stimuli to all five senses. It also intercepted and collected the brain's commands to the body. This was a virtual function in providing full control within the virtual world. In other words, if your mental commands to your real body were allowed to pass, you might run within the virtual world during a full dive, but your real body would quickly slam into the wall of your room. It was only because the Navigear intercepted the signals from the spine to the body and converted them to digital information that Klein and I could race around the virtual battlefield, swinging our swords with abandon. Yep, you leap into the game. The sheer impact of this experience profoundly enchanted many gamers, myself included. Once you tasted a full dive, there was no going back to the world of touch, pens, and movement sensors. I turned to Klein, his eyes watering as he started out, and the rippling fields and distant city walls. So is Sorta Online your first Nevagear game? Period. Yeah. Klein nodded, turning his gallant face to me like some proud samurai from the distant past when he maintained a serious expression. He could have been the lead actor in a period piece. But this did not reflect his real life appearance. It was nothing more than a virtual avatar created from scratch out of a robust list of thinly turned parameters. Naturally, I have also chosen a look befitting the hero of a fantasy anime, almost embracing in his shameless elegance. Klein continues in a strong and clear voice, as likely to be falsified. Actually, I got sorta SAO first, so I need to buy the hardware just to play it. I mean, the first shipment was only 10,000 copies, right? I'm one of the lucky ones. Although, since you've been playing SAO since the beta test, that makes you 10 times as lucky. There were only around 1,000 testers. I guess you could say that. I scratched my head as he started holes into me. I could remember all as though it was yesterday. The excitement and the enthusiasm that swept through the media when Sorta Online was announced. The Nevagear, as its revolutionary in new full dive ferment were so novel that the actual software to take advantage of it lagged in response initial offerings were simple puzzle and educational titles, and a source of serious disappointment up to full-blown game addicts like me. The Nevagear creates a true virtual world, but the effect of such freedom is entirely lost when the world you inhabit is so small that an impassable wall can be found within 100 yards in any direction. With any directions, hardcore gamers like me were initially entranced by the experience of truly being inside a game, but it was only a matter of time before we showed a killer title in one very specific game genre. We wanted a MMORPG, an online game that hosts through thousands of players in the same vast world, together living, fighting, and adventuring just when desire and expectations has reached their peak. Come to announcement of Sword Art Online, the first ever entry in the VR MMO genre. The game took place in a massive floating fortress made up of hundreds expensive levels, armed with nothing but the weapons in their hands. Players explored each floor, packed with fields, forests, and towns, looking for the staircase up where and defeating terrifying guardian monsters in their quests to reach the top. Unlike topical fantasy themed MMOs, the concept of magic spells had been largely exist from the setting, making way for a nearly limitless combination of special attacks called sword skills. This was an intentional move to maximize the full dive experience, forcing players to use their own bodies and swords to fight. Skills applied not just to combat, but also to crafting disciplines like blacksmithing, leatherworking, and tailoring. Productive endeavors such as fishing and cooking, and even creating pursuits such as playing musical instruments. Therefore, players weren't limited to adventuring within the vast virtual world. They could literally choose their own lifestyle within the game. With enough hard work, and players could buy a home, till fields, and raise sheep of his chose. As details of these features trickled out in stages, enthusiasm among the gaming public rose to a fever pitch. A beta test was announced in which 1,000 players would be granted access to the game before release to help test the system and isolate software bugs. The developer was quickly swamped with more than 100,000 applicants, which represented nearly half of all Never Gear Unites sold in that point. At that point, that I somehow managed to slip through the crowd into one of those valuable slots was nothing short of a miracle. Not only that, being a beta tester gave me priority access to the retail edition of the game. When it hit the market, the 2 months of the beta, the test were like a fever dream. Even at school, my head was swimming with thoughts of my skill loadout and equipment. And once I got home, I dove into the game until dawn. In no time at all, the beta test ended, and when my character data was erased, it felt like I had lost a part of myself. The day was Sunday, November 6th, 2022. That was last month. That was last year. At 1 o'clock p.m., Sword Art Online would finally go live to the public. It was really a full 30 minutes early, of course, logging in without a second's hesitation and checking the server data to confirm that more than 9,500 lucky purchasers were brimming with anticipation, just as I was. The major online retailers had sold out of their initial shipments in seconds, and brick and mortar shops had made the news, with crowds lining up 3 days early to get copies of the game. In other words, everyone who managed to secure a copy of SAO was almost certainly a serious gaming addict. My first interaction with Klein seems to support that exception. As I logged into SAO and marched down the familiar cobblestones of the town of beginnings, I ducked into a back alley, heading for a particularly cheap weapons dealing. He must have noticed my lack of hesitation and pegged me for a beta tester. Hey, spare some advice. Klein held me. I'm impressed by his utter lack of restrained. I tried to pass myself off as a helpful town guide NPC with a feeble "Hello, are you looking for the weapon shop?" So soon we were grouped together into a party, followed by some hands-on combat lessons out, outside of town. And here were we. Here were we. Frankly speaking, I was at least as antisocial in the game as I was in real life. If not more so. I grew familiar with many other gamers during the beta test, but there wasn't a single one of them I have called a friend. But this Klein fellow has a mysterious ability to slip past one's definite defenses and latch on, and to my surprise, I didn't really mind, thinking that I might actually be able to stick around with him. I opened my mouth again. So, what now? Want to keep hunting until you get the hang of it? You bet your butt. You bet your butt I do. Or normally I would. Klein's shapely eyes darted to the right. His was checking the time readout displaying in the corner of his version. But I need to log out for a bit to eat dinner. I scheduled a pizza delivery for 5:30. So wait for that, buddy. Now, there's a guy who comes prepared. I cited Klein straightened it up, a continued as through he'd just through of something. So I'm gonna go back to the town of beginnings after this and meet up with some friends I made in another game. If I introduced you, would you want to add them to your friends list? It makes it easy to send messages to each other. I stammered. I found it easy to get along with Klein, but there was no guarantee I hit it off with his friends. In fact, it seemed all too easy. The invasion feeling uncomfortable around them, which might make things awkward with Klein himself. Thank you. Yeah, well, as I failed to give a clear response, Klein quickly shook his head in understanding. I mean, I'm not saying you have to. There'll be other chances to meet them. Sure. Thanks for asking, though. I apologized as Klein shook his head again. None of that. I'm the one who should be thanking you. You helped me out a ton. I'll make it up to you sometimes. You'll know, eventually. He grinded and checked the time again. All right, man. I'm gonna log out for now. Thanks again, Kitty. We're gonna hang out sometimes. As I reached out and grasped his extending hand. It occurred to me and this man was probably an excellent leader in that other game he played. Sure thing. If you ever have any questions, just ask. Yeah, will do. We released the handshake. This was the instant that Aincrad, the world of Sword Art Online, stopped simply being a fun game, a peasant diversion. Klein took one step backwards, held out the index and middle fingers on his right hands and swung them downwards, the action that called up the game's main menu screen with a sound like bells jingling and translating purple rectangle materialized in midair. I took a few steps backwards myself, sitting down on a nearby rock to open my own window. My fingers traced the display as I sorted the items I earned from fighting boars. The next extent. Klein muttered, perplexed. What the heck? There's no logout button. Uh-oh. At those last words, I stopped moving my hand and looked up. No button? That can't be true. Look closer, I said, exasperated. The tall, sympathic, weirdly wielding hero leaned over his eyes wide beneath the ugly bandana as he started at the window in its default state. The elongated horizontal window featured several menu tabs on the left and a human silhouette on the right, detailing the user's inventory and equipment. At the very bottom of the main menu was a logout button that enabled the player to leave the world, or at least there should have been. As I returned my gaze to the list of items I'd earned over the last few hours of battle, Klein repeated himself loudly, "It's this time. No, it's just gone. You should see for yourself, Kitty-Toe. I'm telling you, it has to be there." I sighed, then tapped the bottom button in the upper left of the screen that lead back to the main menu. My item storage display closed smoothly, returning the window into its default state. The silhouette reappeared several equipment slots still empty, and the list of menu tab materialized again on the left. With a familiar motion, I slide my finger down to the bottom button, and all of my muscle froze solid. It was gone. During the beta test, in fact, just after logging in at 1 o'clock today, the logout button was right in the corner, but as Klein note, it had simple disappeared. I started at the blank space of several seconds and moved my eyes upwards, clearly scanning the menu tabs to ensure that it hadn't simply changed positions when I wasn't paying attention. Klein tilt his head at me as through to say, "See? Gone, right?" "Yep, gone," I reluctantly agreed. He raised his cheeks on a grimace and stroked his shaped chin. "Well, it is lunch day. Bugs happens. I bet tech support is getting drowned in calls. They're probably tearing their hair on out right now," he said nonchalantly, nonchalantly, nonchalantly. It was it to which I gave a barbed retort. "This is that all you have to say about it? Weren't you just talking about getting a pizza delivery at 5:30? Oh crap, that's right." I grinned. I grinned despite myself at the sight of him bolting upright, wide-eyed with alarm. The red glow of my inventory screen subsided as I discarded enough junk items to squeeze back under the weight limit. Standing up, I walked over to Klein, who wailed on about those anchovy pizzas and ginger ale. "Look, you should try opening a support ticket with the GMs. They might be able to boot you off from the system site." I struggled. "I tried there, but there was no response." "Man, that's alright. That's already 5:25. Kirito was there anyway. Other way. Was there any other way to log out of the game?" He pleaded particularly. He hands outstretched. My lazy grin stiffened a visual sense of anxiety, but began to chill my spine. "Let's see. Log out. Log out," I muttered, to leave the game and return to my room back in the real world was simply a matter of opening the menu window, hitting the logout button, then confirming the action when a safety prompt. How many pages are there? A prompt appeared. It was quite easy, but I didn't actually know if any other way to leave. I looked up at Klein's face above me and slowly shook my head. Nope, there's no way to manually log out other than through the menu. But that's crazy. There has to be a way out of this. Klein wheeled as through dennying. My answer would make it untrue. Go back, log out, exit. But nothing happened. SAO did not respond. The voice commands. He continued shouting and chanting, eventually growing agitated enough to leap about until I called out in a low voice. It wouldn't work, Klein. The manual doesn't say anything about an emergency termination method either. But that's crazy. I know games have bugs, but not the kind where you can't even go back to your own home or own body, your own free will. Klein turned around to me, his face agaze. I agree with him. This was crazy. It was absurd, but it was the reality we were facing. You've got to be kidding me. This can't be happening. We're trapped inside the stupid game. Klein ranted, breaking into a panicked laugh. I know. I'll just power off the machine or rip the nerve gear off my head. Klein ripped his head over his head, rubbed his hands over his head, as through removing an invisible hat. But I felt the cold anxiety return. We can't do that either. Of those things. When we can't move our actual bodies, the nerve gear intercepts all the commands going from our brains to the rest of our limbs. I tapped the back of my neck with my fingers. The system translates those commands into actions within the game. It's the only way we're able to move our avatars like this. Klein felt silent and slowly lowered his arms. We remained locked in place. For all movements, our minds racing in order of the nerve gear to successfully create the full dive experience. I'm gonna stop. After this chapter, I'm gonna stop. Experience, it had to read the movement singles going from the brain to the spine, cancel them out, and translate them into digital actions within the game would, no matter how desperately I waved my arms inside the game, my real body would remain motionless on my bed, ensuring that I wouldn't bruise myself. Excuse me. How long's the game? Oh, it's almost. Oh, it's an hour. The digital world, no matter. The digital actions were in the game world, no matter how cancer are, and translate them into digital actions within the game. Endurance, movements. I'm gonna expressions. It has to read the movement singles. Going from the brain to the spine, cancel them out, and translate them into digital actions within the game world. No matter how desperately I waved my arms inside the game, my real body would remain motionless on my bed. Okay, that's right. Ensuring that I wouldn't pierce myself, hitting the corner of my desk by accident. But it was that very feature that now physically prevented me from disengaging the dive. So does this means we're either have to wait for the bug to be fixed, or for someone to pull the headgear off of our bodies? Klein muttered, still dumbfounded. I gave him a slight silent nod. But I live by myself, you. I hesitated, then answered honestly. I lived with my mom and little sister. I I bet that if I don't come down for dinner, they'll eventually force me out of the dive. Oh, how's old your sister? Klein leaned forward, his eyes suddenly sparkled. I I pushed him head away. That's sure not you to take your mind off the situation, didn't it? Look, she's on a sport club at school, and she hates video games. She has nothing in common with people like us. Besides, I waved my hand, trying to chase the subject. Don't you think this is weird? Sure, it is. The game is buggy. This isn't just an old bug. Not being able to log out is a huge deal. It could spell disaster for the game's future. Even as we speak, your pizza is getting colder by the second. That represents a real monetary loss for you, doesn't it? Cold pizza is worse than netto that doesn't get sticky. Klein muttered particularly. I continued, as a situation like this means the programmers have to shut down the servers that and force all the players offline. And yet, even through its bet at least 15 minutes since we discovered this bug, not only are we still online, there hasn't even been an official announcement within the game. It makes no sense. Oh, we're almost done. We're reaching the chapter 3. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Klein rubbed his chin, finally looking suitable, serious. His slender eyes glistened beneath the bandana stretched over the high bridge of his nose. I listened to Klein continue, struck by how odd it was that I was discussing such real world affairs with a person I only met by sheer chance and would likely never see again if I simply delete my game account. Argus, the developers of SAO, made a name of themselves based on their customer outreach. The fact that their first online game was so highly anticipated is a sight of how much trust the community has in them. How could they ruin that reputation with such a stunning screwing up their very first day? Exactly, not only the SAO is the very first example of a VR MMO. If this turns into a huge controversy, the entire genre could get regulated out of existence. Klein and I sighed slowly at the same time over virtual faces turned into each other. Aincrad's climate was announced to the real life season, meaning that it was really winter in the game, just as it was outside. I breathed in the chilling air deeply, feeling filling my lungs with virtual oxygen and looked skyward. More than 100 yards above, the button of the second floor glowed a fading faint purple as I followed the flat, rocky surface toward the horizon. My eyes finally rested on a vast tower of in the distance. The labyrinth, labyrinth that would lead to the next level of the castle. Being beyond that, I could even see the aber, aperture, aperture on the far side of the floor. It was now past 5:30, and the silver of sky to be seen over the vast distant was glowing crimson. The setting sun shone through lightning the rippling fields in a dazing gold, and I found myself at a loss of words despite the gravity of our situation. in the next instant, the world changed forever. Okay, we finished up chapter 2, and we've already passed 1 hour, so we're gonna call this off. So it's all beginning now. I remember seeing that in the reaction video that I did long before my termination. So yeah, we're gonna stop right there. So yo, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe. We'll do chapter 3 in the next stream, in the next reading stream soon. And tomorrow, we will do my first watch along stream at 8:30 p.m. because the concert stream starts at 9 p.m. at the Eastern Time, EST. And tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, is gonna be my work now. I got a job now, and so right after I'm done with the watch along stream, I'm not gonna do the explanations now. I'm just gonna get myself, before I start streaming, I'll do my showers and I'll get ready. I'll get myself ready for tomorrow's stream. So be prepared for that, guys. And I'll see you all tomorrow. And peace out.